Sarah Hernandez. I'm the tourism coordinator for the city of Rio Grande, and I would love to welcome you guys to our event. So thank you very much for being here. Dr. Teresa Van Hoy from St. Mary's University is here with her students. She reached out to the city to have this celebration about Adrian Vidal, tell his story. So her and her students are going to show some short films. We're going to have a candlelight vigil as far as a balloon launch. Right now I would like to introduce a very important woman here for the city of Rio Grande. She's also a history lover, and she's a city manager here for Rio Grande City. Her name is Miss Elisa Beas.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Again, welcome everyone. This is a great opportunity. The city of Rio Grande welcomes Professor Teresa Van Hoy, her students, distinguished guests, and everyone here who is in love with our history that cherishes our town. This is one of many events that we are coordinating with this university and other efforts. We have members of the Rio Grande City Historic Preservation Commission. We have members here that are also with the Revive Fort Ringgold, trying to preserve, restore our history. It is very important that we do that we don't lose our heritage. I am very happy to introduce Miss Teresa Van Hoy. She's a professor from the University of St. Mary's, and she just loves the Rio Grande Valley, and she loves Rio Grande. So I want to welcome each one of you. I hope you all enjoy it. This is our history, ladies and gentlemen. This is who we are, and we must not forget it. Teresa?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Beas. And to everyone who came, I am so happy to see you. You have no idea how much we've dreamed of this day. This is June 14th, 2015. Exactly 150 years ago today, June 14th, 1865, something happened 1 mile away. Right, even less, right? How far is the river from here, from this spot? It's only half a mile, right? Right here in the river, there was a young man who had spent 3 years fighting for the people of the Rio Grande Valley. And we are here all joined today, 150 years later, to remember him and to remember the men and women who fought with him, the independent partisan rangers of Adrian Vidal. And I think that nobody does history better than you. Nobody does history better than Rio Grande City. My students and I started our adventure here in Rio Grande City last night at one of the oldest ranches of Texas. It's just right up the road here. It belonged to the Perez family. They were here before Escandon. They were here before 1750, and their descendants, we have them right here. We have Hernan Contreras, his wife, Araceli, his cousin, oh gosh, I forgot your name, honey. Sylvester, and Rene, his brother. Here they are, and I'm here because of them. I'm here because Hernan was my student. I'm way older than he is. Hernan was my student. Raise your hand, Hernan, so everybody knows who you are. Yes. Hernan, studying history is the fountain of youth. So there you go. Hernan was my student, and he's talking about Perez's and Casimiro and all the people. And I'm from North Carolina. You can hear the hick accent, the hillbilly accent. I'm saying, man, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, I've been paying for that. For 15 years, I've been studying these towns along the Rio Grande Valley, and I'm in love with them. And I'm so happy to be here with you tonight. This afternoon, this morning, my students and I, we drove up and down, went to the river, and I plunged my hand in and threw the water up in the air in tribute to all the beautiful people that we have met since we got here. So thank you very much. The very next thing we have is what? Everybody see that? Our national anthem, sung by the Moipe triplets. Let me tell you, the last time they sang the national anthem in public, do you know to whom they were singing? the Spurs in the playoff game. So come on out.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
So now we want to, well, I've already introduced the honorees, except I know there are more people that I would like to acknowledge. Of course, Ms. Elisa Bass, if she hadn't said yes, we would still be in San Antonio. So I just want to say she had so much on her plate, and she still made time for us, and she still made it possible. Of course, Sara and Marlene, those women are amazing. You have no idea the treasure you have here, thanks to their energy and their vision. All three of these women. Big hand for City of Rio Grande City. We also have a special guest, Don Homero Vera. If you don't mind standing up, Don Homero, he is driven all the way in from Sarita. He is the director of the Kennedy South Texas Museum, and his museum is the only one that says anything about Adrian Vidal. And Adrian has a beautiful place of prominence right over the main door, and I encourage everybody to go see that museum. It's a treasure, again, of the Rio Grande Valley history, and we are grateful to him and his wife for driving all the way in 4 or 5 hours round trip just to be here with us tonight. So thank you very much, and we'll be teaming up with them as we move forward for this sesquicentennial year. Thank you. All right, so we now have an amazing treat, and that is going to be a reenactment. A reenactment by Senor Daniel Trevino and his ACE team from the South Texas Historical Interpreters. We are so fortunate to have them here, and I hope that their efforts will be rewarded as we try to use history to bring economic development and dynamism to the valley. So big round of applause for our reenactors, and then we are going to watch them tell our story. Thank you.
June 14, 1865. Adrian Vidal, for the atrocities and crimes committed against the crown and emperor, you are sentenced to die by firing squad in front of these witnesses. Do you have anything to say against these charges? If not, may God receive you in heaven.
For the sake of my mother, do not shoot me in the face.
Firme de mucho, imbécil.
Now we would like to bring forward all the children, because the history is also for the children. So if all the children will come over to the balloons, we are going to get the balloons. You'll notice that the balloons have names on them. One name or even two names, because we ran out of balloons. One name or even or two names, one for each of the independent partisan rangers, the men of South Texas, the Tejanos, who formed part of his regiment and followed him into Mexico and risked their lives and in many cases gave their lives to defend the Rio Grande Valley and the rancheros and rancheras that lived here. So where are my kids? Let's get these balloons. Let's launch the balloons, please. Okay, Rio Grande City remembers. 1, 2, 3. We will invite all the veterans to please come forward and lead us in the moment of silence, the candlelight moment of silence. So if we have some veterans who would honor us with their presence as descendants of our Tejanos who risked their lives for the people of Texas and Rio Grande City. So they'll lead us in a moment of silence, and then we'll lift our candles aloft and blow them out. Thank you, gentlemen. With this moment, we will have a moment of silence. Viva el Río Grande, viva el pueblo de Texas. And we'll blow out our candles, and with this moment we launch our sesquicentennial year, and we will be back next year with the, God willing, and the blessings of your city of Rio Grande City.
Would you give me 5 seconds to tell a story about it?
Yeah.
My name is Roque Rosales. I live in Escobares, 10 miles west of here. I was a teacher in Rio High School for 30 years. My story is very simple. We're talking about veterans. We're talking about Tejanos. In 1942, one of my great-great-uncles was drafted. He went to the induction station in San Antonio, Texas. He didn't pass. He was illiterate. He couldn't speak English. And he told the captain, I want to go serve my country. He said, yes, but you don't speak English. Y le dice a un señor Olivares aquí del rastrojo, dile al capitán que si las balas matan nomás los que hablan inglés. What he said, que si las balas, the bullets kill only those who speak English. Oh, is that so? Get on the other line. He was killed at the Solomon Islands in February 1943, 6 months before I was born. Thank you.
One hot summer day, 150 years ago, a steamboat was anchored in the middle of the Rio Grande between Camargo and Rio Grande City. Tied to the flagpole of that boat was a young man who had just turned 20 years old. That boat belonged to the boy's family, the Kennedys, but it was flying the Mexican flag because of the Civil War in the United States. The Union blockade stopped all Confederate boats, but the Union could not interfere with any Mexican boats. Everyone knew the boy, Adrian Vidal. He was from the second wealthiest family in Texas, son of Petra Vela and stepson of Mifflin Kennedy. Kennedy was the partner of Richard King of King Ranch. By 1865, Kennedy and King owned between them the largest ranches in the lower Rio Grande Valley on the Texas side of the river. Petra's family and other families of Mexican descent had owned the land long before. But by 1865, Petra was married to Kennedy and leading the project to build the Catholic Church in Corpus. Adrian Vidal had been plenty active already in his short life. He started out as captain in his stepfather's fleet of steamboats plying the Rio Grande. When Texas seceded, He organized as a teenager his own troops, known as the Independent Partisan Rangers, and offered their service to General Hamilton B's Confederate troops stationed in Brownsville. When Union forces threatened to invade Texas early on, Vidal and his men mobilized to defend their homeland. Above all, Adrian Vidal was committed to protecting his homeland and his people on both sides of the Rio Grande. His immediate loyalties were to those Tejanos who described themselves as Defensores de la Frontera. They championed poor Mexican Americans in Texas and their relatives living across the river on the Mexican side. His larger loyalty was to defend Republican ideals from imperialists and other threats on the sides of the border. The biggest threat in the 1860s to both republics was the French invasion of Mexico. Starting in 1862, Napoleon III sent 30,000 troops to overthrow President Benito Juárez and install an Austrian prince, Maximilian, as Emperor of Mexico. Napoleon III, nephew of the famous conqueror Napoleon I, especially wanted the most prosperous parts of northern Mexico, Tamaulipas and Sonora. No wonder Adrian Vidal was determined to protect Mexico from foreign invaders. His father, Luis Vidal, died in battle defending Mexico from foreign invaders. He fell in the Battle of Monterrey when U.S. troops were invading during the Mexican-American War. Adrian Vidal was just a baby then, but he grew up influenced by his father's sacrifice for Mexico and borderlands people. So Adrian Vidal and his men fought to defend Mexico and Texas from whoever threatened either side of the lower Rio Grande Valley. Once the French invaded Mexico, Cinco de Mayo, 1862, Vidal discovered that the Confederates were siding with the French and imperialists against President Juárez and the defenders of the Republic. Slidell, the same U.S. ambassador to Mexico in 1845, who urged Polk to invade Mexico, had now gone to Paris in 1863 to urge Napoleon III to support the Confederacy and promised in turn to help the Imperialistas defeat the Juaristas. This news made the Tejanos very unhappy with the Confederates. Meanwhile, President Lincoln, Secretary of State Seward, and U.S. Ambassador to Mexico Thomas Corwin had been supporting Mexico's Republic and Benito Juárez against the French and Maximilian. In fact, Lincoln, Seward, and Corwin had also supported Mexico against the U.S. invasion in the 1840s and remained supportive in the 1850s. So when the Union troops prepared an invasion of Texas in November 1863, the Union recruiting officers promised to help Tejanos defeat the French and imperialists in Mexico. Tejanos believed them and joined the Union. Soon, Tejanos realized that the Union would not defend Mexico. Seward had ordered strict neutrality so as to avoid giving Napoleon III a pretext to declare war against the Union and support the Confederacy. Tejanos got very nervous because they learned in the spring of 1864 that the French were advancing on northern Mexico. Marching towards Matamoros and Camargo was none other than Charles Dupont, the dreaded counter-guerrilla leader. He and his men had committed so many abuses around Veracruz that he had been dubbed the Tiger of the Tropics. He burned villages, hung men, and killed women and children. In summer of 1864, Vidal sent his resignation to Union headquarters in New Orleans with his Union commander's approval, and it was approved. But before official notification arrived, Vidal and his men had to rush to help defend Mexico. Mejia and Dupont were fast approaching. General Tomás Mejia was the top imperialist general, and he had been assigned to take Matamoros and control the lucrative cotton trade being smuggled out of Texas. That trade was the lifeline of the Confederacy, because all other southern ports were blockaded by the Union. Kennedy and King made huge profits from the Confederate cotton trade during the Civil War. Mejia took over Matamoros in September 1864, and Dupont's men started attacking the borderlands people so badly that he earned the moniker Hyena of Tamaulipas. As the Confederacy collapsed in late 1864 and early 1865, Confederates crossed into Mexico. Many joined the imperialists, some even joined Dupont's counter-guerrillas. By April 1865, after Lee's surrender, Vidal's own parents, Petra and Mifflin, also fled to Mexico and were living under Mejia's protection in Matamoros. Where was Adrian? He was in the borderlands fighting the imperialists, desperately trying to save Republic from the French and Emperor Maximilian. He had allied his men with Cortina, Escobedo, and other Juarista generals defending Mexico. Vidal and the Juaristas were living outdoors in the mountain hideouts, dodging Dupont, entering trade routes, and staging bold raids into imperialist strongholds. Finally, the imperialists caught him. They broke their own laws and international codes of warfare. by sentencing Adrian Vidal to summary execution. No trial, no evidence produced, just firing squad. Maximilian did not authorize summary execution of rebels, denying them belligerent status, until 4 months later in the infamous Black Decree of October 3, 1865. Because the execution order was illegal, the imperialists didn't dare kill this American citizen in Mexico, nor could they kill him in the United States, so they put him on his own steamboat with his uncle as captain.
Immediately, Petravella offered his weight in gold as ransom.
Mifflin Kennedy rushed to the boat to stop them, but the imperialists hastened to call forth the firing squad. As they lined up, Vidal tore his blindfold and uttered one last request.
For the sake of my mother, spare my face.
150 years ago today, June 14, 1865, Adrian Vidal shouted his last words, probably loud enough to be heard in this plaza here in Rio Grande City. "Viva la República!" he yelled as the barrage of bullets tore his body and his face. His stepfather took his corpse home to his mother, and the family erected a tombstone in his honor. Engraved on the tombstone,
Aquí yacen los restos del C. Adrian Vidal. Nació el día 9 de mayo de 1845 y falleció en junio a la edad de 20 años, un mes, 5 días. Sus padres, esposa, hija y hermanos le consagraron ese recuerdo a su memoria.
Imperial bullets ended Adrian Vidal's life that day, but his legacy lived on. 1 year and 1 day later, on June 16, 1866, Juaristas defeated the Imperialists at the Battle of Santa Gertrudis. The Juaristas that day included Vidal's men and his allies, including Cortina, Escobedo, and a battalion from Camargo.
That Juarista victory forced Mejia to withdraw from Matamoros, liberating Tamaulipas. 1 year and 3 days later, June 19, 1865, Maximilian was executed and Mexico was free.
After 3 foreign invasions in the previous 30 years, after losing half their territory to the U.S. in 1848, no more foreign troops ever invaded Mexico again. Vidal's personal legacy also lives on. 2 months after his execution, his wife, Ana Chavero de Vidal, gave birth to their daughter, christened Maria Josefa Ana Vidal Chavero. His daughter chose to bear his real name all her life. She renamed herself Ana Adrienne Vidal. She married Louis Cohen, a Russian immigrant's son, and bore many children. The imperialists shed Adrian Vidal's blood on June 14, 1865, but they didn't destroy his bloodline. Today, many Texans descend from Vidal, and the Kennedy Museum in Sarita, Texas, honors his legacy. His men also deserve credit. These Tejanos risked life, liberty, and family to protect fronterizos from Tupan and to defend Mexico's republic from Napoleon and Maximilian's imperialists. One of Vidal's men just got recognition from the U.S. Army just last year, but let us list them all. Thank you to Jerry Thompson. We have a list of each of Vidal's men.